Hi, this is Mrs. Slater, and today we are going to be hearing a riddle that says, what goes up and down the stairs without moving? I'll tell you that at the end of the lesson. And then the quote for the day is, do not judge someone because they sin differently from you. Okay, today's 14.3, and it's geometric sequences. Okay, first of all, on the right side of your notes, I want you to go ahead and make a little definition box. Let's talk a little bit about geometric sequences and what they do. Okay, so basically each pair of terms has a common ratio called R. So anytime you see R, that's referring to the common ratio in a geometric sequence. Okay, the test for it is going to be to take the second one and this time divide. Okay, yesterday, arithmetic sequences you subtract. Now we're going to divide. So you can take the second one divided by the first. You can take the third divided by the second. You can take the 50th and divided by the 40th term. And that's all going to get you the same geometric ratio. Okay, so if we want to look at the first example, we're only going to find the common ratio of the particular example. So the test is to take the second and divide it by the first. So you get a common ratio of R. Now let's see if that applies for the rest of them. 12 divided by 6, yes, that's 2, and 24 divided by 12, that is also 2. So to label this, we would say R is equal to 2. Okay, go ahead and push pause and do the next one. Okay, so this one we have a test where we take the second one divided by the first, you get negative 2. The third divided by the second, you get negative 2. So as you can see, we are going to get negative 2, and hopefully you got that on your own. And then the last one, again, fractions always seem to cause a little more stress, but you take the second one divided by the first, and that simplifies into 1/2. Same as 1/4 divided by 1/4 divided by 1/2 is also going to give you 1/2. And finally, the 1/8 divided by 1/4 gives you 1/2 as well. So the final answer is a common ratio of 1/2. The next two problems refer to finding a certain term of the geometric sequence. Now, there are a couple ways to do this. We could find the common ratio by doing the test, taking the second one divided by the first. And already we know it's a geometric sequence, so we don't have to test all of them to know for sure. So the common ratio is square root of 2. So because we only have 1, 2, 3, 4, we already have those, we could find the sixth term very easily. Okay, so we could multiply 4 radical 2 times radical 2 to get 4 times 2, which is 8. And then 8 times radical 2, which is 8 radical 2, and so on. Okay, so we've got the sixth term just by doing it by hand, which is fine. But I also want that there just as a backup. Now, the formula for this, if we have to find the 106th term, we're not going to want to do that pattern over and over again 106 times. So the formula that I would like you to know is how to find the nth term. A sub n is the first term times the common ratio, and then 2 the n minus 1. So that n minus 1 is an exponent. Okay, so if we're wanting the sixth term, and we already know the first term of the sequence is 2, we know the common ratio, which we found already, was the square root of 2, and then n is 6 to the first power. All right, so what that means is that the sixth term, we've got square root of 2 to the 5th power now, which is a little bit of simplifying. And there are 5 of them. Now, you probably have done this without writing it all out, or you could do this without writing it out, but it just helps sometimes to see it. That's going to be 2, that's going to be 2, and then the square root of 2 does not have a partner to join with it. So your final answer is 8 radical 2, 8 radical 2, which is the answer that we got just by doing it by hand. So, same. Okay, now in the next one, we've got some fractions we want to deal with here. And the first thing I want to do is find the common ratio. So I'm going to take 4 over 81 and divide it by 8 over 243. Push pause, find out what that is. So if you got r equals 3/2, good job. If you didn't, recheck your calculator, see if you made a mistake there. Okay, so let's go to the formula. A sub n equals the first term times r to the n minus 1. In this case, the first term is 8 over 243, and the ratio is 3/2 to the n minus 1. And then we are trying to find the 8th term. So n is going to equal 8. So I should also put an 8 right here, 8 minus 1. Okay, now order of operations, just like the last time, the order of operations, we had to do the 5th root first. We actually need to do this first because of order of operations. So once you find out that 3/2 to the 7th, find out what that is first, and go ahead and push pause and finish it out. Find out what it's the 7th, and then multiply by 8 over 243. And you should get 9 over 16. Okay, the next few examples talks about different sums of geometric series. So there's a whole bunch of numbers here we have to add together. And the formula itself that you should write down is the sum of n numbers equals first term times 1 minus r to the n over 1 minus r. Okay, so we consider this a finite sum. Okay, infinite would mean it goes on forever. Finite sum means you have an ending, because we want to find the first 6 terms of the sequence. Okay, so you need to know that. And then once you look at the information given, you first want to find the common ratio. So a negative 8 divided by 16 gives you a negative 1/2. And if we know the common ratio and the first term, we're going to be able to use the formula. So we're finding the sum of 6 terms. The first term is 16, and then we have 1 minus a negative 1 to the 6th. Be careful with all your notation. And then 1 minus a negative 1/2 at the bottom. All right, so let's clean this up. First of all, you have 2 negatives that equal positive. So I'm going to go ahead and make that change. And then 16 times, that's just going to be 1.5 in the denominator. And then the next thing we're going to do is take negative 1/2 to the 6th power. So if you don't have your calculator out, go ahead and get that now. Okay, so now that you have your calculator out, let's go ahead and put in the numerator 1 minus parentheses negative 0.5, and then we're going to close those parentheses, and that is going to be to the 6th power. Okay, find out what that is, and it looks like I'm going to go ahead and change that back into a fraction. So I get 63 over 64, so let's go ahead and put 63 over 64 in the numerator. And then we can go back to our calculator again and just divide that answer by 1.5. Push enter. Let's see what that is as a fraction. And we get 21 over 32. And we have some cross-canceling that we can do. 16 goes in there 2 times. So then the sum of all the numbers are going to be 10.5. All right, so let's go on to the next one. Find the sum of the first 8 terms this time for a geometric series. Next thing we'd have to do is find the common ratio. And how do you find that is by taking 0.6 and dividing it by 6. So you end up with 0.1 as your common ratio. So let's use that in the formula. So we're finding 8 terms, and the first term is 6, and then we're going to multiply that by 1 minus r to the n over 1 minus r. Okay, and after filling that in, I should have put an 8. So let's go ahead and put an 8 right there. Go ahead and push pause and solve that, and then come back. So hopefully you get the answer of 20 over 3, or you can have 6.6 repeating. Okay, let's go on to sigma notation. Sigma notation is saying the same thing. How are you going to know if it's geometric? I mean, they do tell you, and there is another way. If you see a variable in the exponent, that's another way to know if it is geometric. Okay, so number 8 is going to be just adding them together if you want, because you've got 1, 2, 3, and 4. So it's not a lot of difference between what you have done before. It's just that it's going to be a lot easier if you use the formula. So I'm going to go ahead and let you practice using the formula, and then come back with the answer. Okay, so the answers are 2.176, 1,092, and then 5,461 over 2,048. So if you have any questions on those, I'll answer it tomorrow. So let's go on and practice our formula more, where if you have the first term, how are you going to know what the first term is? Well, just like in our previous sections, you would take the 1 and plug it in. So you'd have 1/3 to the 1 minus 1, which we know anything to the 0 power is 1. So that's going to be my first term. And then 1 minus the common ratio, which is going to be really nice in these problems because it's always going to show up inside of the parentheses right before the exponent. So 1/3 to the 25th term, because we know that 25 represents how many terms we're going to find. And then it's all over 1 minus 1/3. Okay, so let's do a little of the math on the calculator just to double check, make sure you're doing it correctly. And you should go ahead and put in 1 minus, and then use your division symbols, all right, parentheses 2, 3, and then to the 25th. So it should look like that when you're done. So that's going to give us the numerator, and then the denominator we can go ahead and divide by parentheses 1 minus, parentheses again, 1 divided by 3, and then you'd have to close your parentheses twice. So that's making sure that we're dividing by all of that. And you get 1.5. So 1.5 times 1 is just going to be an answer 1.5. So the sum of all of those from the first to the second is just going to be, sum of 25 terms is 1.5. Okay, the next one, we have the first term. If we plug in a 1, negative 1 times 4 to the 1 minus 1, negative 4 times, or negative 1 times 1, because anything 0 power is 1, you get negative 1. The common ratio, again, is located right here at the 4, so 1 minus 4 to the n over 1 minus 4. Go ahead and use your calculator to practice those. And then the last one, you have a sub 1, so that the first term is going to be 3 to the what power? It would be 1. And then the ratio, common ratio is also that, and we're finding the sum of 7 terms, 1 over 3. So take both of those and find out what they are in your calculator. Okay, so let's go ahead and finish this up. I wanted to point out that the second one, I forgot to put in that 33, so you probably realized that already. So once you plug it in the calculator, it's going to look something like this. So I did 1 minus 4 to the 33rd power, and I got this humongous number. And then I divided by negative 3, because 1 minus negative 4 is negative 3. And I got still a humongous number. And then I multiplied that by a negative 1. So then I've got a negative 2.45, and I don't want to write out every single decimal. But as you recall from class, that e to the 19 just means it's in scientific notation. So it'd be times 10 to the 19th. All right, so if you have any questions, you can make a note to yourself on this and then ask me tomorrow. And if there are no questions, I was wondering if you got the quiz, not the quiz, the riddle. What goes up and down the stairs without moving? And if you had the answer, rug, you are correct. See you tomorrow.